Hello everyone and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The room reeked of old latex and cheap theatrical glue, the kind that never seemed to leave your pores no matter how hard you scrubbed. A single bulb hung naked from the ceiling, casting harsh yellow light on the broken linoleum floor. RJ stood in the midst of the cramped dressing room under the abandoned community theater at 14th and Maple, inhaling through his mouth because the air was too thick otherwise. His fingers trembled, not from the cold, even though the radiator had died years before, but from the weight of what he was about to accomplish. Dylan had been wearing the mask for about 17 hours without a break. Not metaphorically. Literally. The edges had begun to curl inward like burning paper, clinging to the skin beneath with the unnatural, almost biological tenacity that only the best, or most cursed, prosthetics could achieve. RJ had been watching the subtle transition all night, how the silicone seemed to sip sweat, how light veins began to develop beneath the artificial cheekbones, as if the mask were generating capillaries of its own. He reached out. The very tips of his fingers brushed Dylan's jawline, or what appeared to be it, and the mask made the slightest, wet sucking sound, like lips separating after a long kiss. RJ froze. A pipe groaned somewhere inside the building. Outside, a faraway siren rang and fell without urgency. He told himself it was just another late-night improv game gone wrong, another layer of performance that had outlasted its usefulness. He told himself several things during those 3 frozen seconds. Then he hooked his nails under the temple seam. The mask would not let go. It peeled in one continuous, unwilling sheet, much like you would strip scorched skin after too many hours in the sun. Not in pleasing flakes, but in a single elastic membrane that stretched and stretched until it gave way with a faint, tearing whisper. RJ drew downward in a steady, methodical arc, watching the false face invert like a shed snake skin turned inside out. Eyelashes come first. Long, dark, spiky with old mascara that had never fully rinsed off. The brow was smooth, with no evidence of Dylan's thick block to make it appear more rugged. The nose was smaller than RJ remembered, with a softer, almost delicate bridge. Cheekbones that had previously been severely sculpted into acute angles softened into delicate curves. And the mouth, God, the mouth. Dylan's persistent half-sneer, that cocky little twist he used when pretending not to care, had vanished. In its place, lips bigger than RJ had ever seen, slightly split, and still shiny from whatever cheap balm had been trapped behind the silicone all night. RJ's hands became more shaky. He continued peeling. The forehead was the last to leave, bringing a fringe of synthetic hair with it. Underneath, a black and sweat-soaked wig cap stuck to the scalp like an extra layer of sadness. RJ also yanked that free, more forcefully than he intended. A cascade of dark hair, genuine hair, slid down past narrow shoulders. And suddenly the mask came off completely. It dangled from his left hand like a corpse, grotesque and shimmering on the inside with a thin layer of sweat and stage makeup. He dropped it. It landed with a soft, meaty slap on the floor. Luna responded by staring at him. Not dramatically. Not with big movie star eyes, or trembling lips. Just silently. The way someone stares after they've sobbed all of their tears and are now exhausted. Her natural eyes were brown, not the flat hazel contacts Dylan normally wore. They were the color of strong coffee with too much cream, warm, sleepy, and familiar in a way that caused RJ's stomach to curl in on itself. She did not speak. She didn't blink immediately away. She merely watched him observe her. RJ took one step backwards. His heels snagged on the edge of a folding chair, and he nearly fell. He caught himself on the vanity table and knocked down a half-empty bottle of Spirit gum remover. A strong chemical odor emerged between them. His voice sounded like dried kindling. He tried again. You're not Dylan. I haven't been Dylan in about 4 years, responded the woman. Her voice was lower than he imagined, coarser and raw from too many nights of shouting above bar bands and smoking on fire escapes. But it was clearly hers. Luna's. She used the same cadence and a little hitch at the end of phrases to avoid sounding nervous. RJ's mind repeatedly attempted to reboot, continued to fail. But I've seen you, every day, every rehearsal, every bar, every time you looked at Dylan, she finished for him. You were looking at me. The phrase fell like a feather slap, soft, almost delicate, but nonetheless stinging. He remembered the first time he met Dylan. It was a gloomy Tuesday in October. The new guy arrived into the Rusty Anchors open mic night wearing a thrift store leather jacket 2 sizes too large and a smirk that said he knew he was going to bomb and didn't care. RJ instantly liked him. Something about his casual slump and the way he kept his hands in his pockets, as if he was worried they would betray him if left alone. Something about the laugh. Too loud, too abrupt, as if it astonished even him. For years of late-night diner runs, splitting the final cigarette on the theater's roof, shoulders brushing in crowded green rooms, and boozy 3 a.m. confessions that fell short of becoming something more. RJ spent 4 years convincing himself he wasn't falling for the sarcastic straight guy with commitment issues and a compulsive fear of sincerity. For years of lies so subtle that they almost resembled kindness. Luna scratched the stinging red areas on her temples caused by the mask. The move was so basic and human that it seemed to exacerbate the situation. Why? RJ asked. One word. That's all he could manage. She exhaled through her nose, making a faint, exhausted sound. Because it was easier, she explained. Because when people see a man, they hear several things. Because when I said anything angry, they labeled it passion rather than panic. Because when I flirted, people laughed rather than flinched. Because when I messed up on stage, people said I was taking risks rather than being unprofessional. Dylan could escape into a crowd, and no one would follow him home. Because Luna, she paused. Swallowed. Luna got followed. RJ felt something cool glide down the back of his neck. Not water. No sweat. Only the delayed jolt of understanding. Was any of this real? He asked. She gazed at him for a long time. Which part? Any part. Luna closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were damp, but no tears flowed. Every time I laughed at your terrible puns, she told me. Every time I stayed up until dawn, arguing whether Godspeed you. The Black Emperor was either arrogant or a genius. Every time I let you in pool, I enjoyed watching you do that silly victory dance. Each time I stood outside your apartment building at 2 a.m., I was trying to determine whether to buzz, and then walked away instead. All of that was true. RJ's throat hurt. And the rest? The rest was armor, she explained simply. He gazed down at the discarded mask. It lay curled on the floor, like a discarded chrysalis. The empty eye holes looked up at nothing. I thought I knew you, he muttered. You did, she answered. You just didn't know the name. The silence between them was thin and terrible. Outside, the first gray light of false dawn began to filter through the blackout drapes. A garbage truck roared down the alley from some distance away. Normal life continues without authorization. RJ took one step ahead. Not toward her. Not away. Just walk ahead, as if your body hasn't decided whether to run or stay. Luna did not flinch. She did not move closer either. She simply waited, as one does when they have already lost the majority of what they can lose. He carefully lifted his hand, telegraphing every centimeter, allowing her to move away. She did not. His fingertips stroked her cheek, warm, slightly damp, and real. She closed her eyes again. He traced the line of her jaw, the identical path that the mask had taken in reverse. No latex. No spirit gum. Just skin. It's just her. When he got to the corner of her mouth, she opened her eyes. They were quite close now. He got close enough to see the tiny scar above her left brow that he'd never seen before, and close enough to smell the faint bergamot from whatever shampoo she used when she wasn't wearing a wig. I don't know what to call you now, he told me. Luna, she replied. If you want to. What if I haven't decided how I feel about any of this yet? Then don't, she replied. Not tonight. Not tomorrow. Please stay in the room with me for a bit longer. That's all. He nodded once. A tiny, jerky movement. They stood there, two individuals who had known one another forever, yet were meeting for the first time, until the bulb overhead flickered once, twice, and then died. Darkness enveloped them. Neither of them moved to locate the light switch. Breathing was easier in the dark. In the darkness, names seemed less important. In the dark, RJ reached out again, and Luna responded. Their fingers intertwined, tentative, hesitant, yet real. Outside, the city continued to turn. Inside, something older than masks and newer than truth softly began to begin again. RJ's hands began to shake before he knew what was happening. The room was quiet in the way that abandoned spaces always were, not silent, but humming slightly with the memory of those who had passed by. The lights above flickered, gathering dust in the air. Dylan stood in front of him, back straight, chin raised, wearing that familiar half-smile that always made RJ feel like he was falling behind in a game he hadn't consented to play. "Just do it," Dylan replied quietly. RJ gulped. He had been chasing this fact for months, following discrepancies, catching reflections that didn't match, and hearing voices where there should have only been one. He had told himself that he was imagining things. He had persuaded himself Dylan was simply Dylan. Nonetheless, the evidence accumulated steadily and patiently. "Are you sure?" RJ asked. Dylan's gaze softened briefly. "I wouldn't be here if I wasn't." RJ reached up, fingertips hovering near Dylan's jaw. The skin mask was flawless, a marvel of illusion. He'd seen the technology before, on screens, in briefings, and whispered stories late at night, but never up close. Never on anyone he knew. Someone he trusted. He gently hooked his fingers at the edge near the ear, looking for the almost invisible line. When he pulled, there was initial resistance, followed by a slow release, similar to peeling away a shadow. The mask came free in his hands, lighter than he had expected. The face beneath it was not Dylan's. RJ's breath caught. The characteristics rearranged themselves in his thoughts as recognition struck, not as a shock, but as something heavier, something that sank deep and settled. Luna returned his gaze with steady eyes and an open attitude. "Hi, RJ," Luna said. The name sounded odd coming from her. Softer. Truer. RJ took a step back, and the room tilted slightly. He held the mask to his chest, as if it might hold him. "Luna," he murmured, testing it out. You're Dylan." "I was Dylan," she said gently. "I needed to be." Dylan's unusual absences, the way he appeared to know things before anybody told him, the times when his voice shifted just enough that RJ almost asked if he was okay, all came flooding back. Luna had also been there, always just out of reach, appearing when RJ least expected her and vanishing before he could express the questions that burned holes in his chest. "You lied to me," RJ replied. It was not an allegation, but rather a statement of truth. "Yes," Luna answered. "I did." Silence fell between them. RJ felt wrath, uncertainty, and something resembling grief. Not for Dylan specifically, but for the sort of reality he had believed in. For its simplicity. "Why?" he inquired finally. Luna exhaled slowly. "Because the truth could have put you in danger. I needed access that I couldn't acquire by myself. Because Dylan was invisible in ways that I wasn't." She addressed his gaze. "And because I trusted you enough to despise lying to you." RJ laughed dryly. "That's not how trust usually works." "I know." She stretched out, then paused, allowing her hand to fall back to her side. The constraint stung as much as if she had touched him. "Do you remember the night at the docks?" Luna inquired. When Dylan left for 3 hours and Luna returned soaked. RJ nodded. He remembered everything, rethreaded with fresh significance. The timing, the bruising. Luna glanced at him as if she was trying to figure out how much she could tell him without shattering something fragile between them. "I was the same person," she said gently, "just wearing different armor." RJ closed his eyes. He attempted to separate Dylan and Luna, to determine which version of the past belonged to which face, but failed. They overlapped too much. "So, which is real?" he asked. Luna smiled softly. "Both." "Neither." "I do not know." I stopped asking that question a long time ago. RJ reopened his eyes. And now I'm tired of hiding. The words were more powerful than any explanation. RJ examined the mask in his hands before turning to face Luna. The technology was great, but the true trick had been emotional. She had lived 2 lives in parallel, delicately balanced, and always one mistake away from disaster. You could have told me, he remarked. I wanted to, Luna responded. Every day. RJ recalled all the times Dylan had nearly said something, then shifted the subject. Luna had always appeared to be on the verge of disappearing permanently. What happens now? He asked. RJ snorted. That depends on you. You certainly know how to drop responsibility bombs, don't you? Luna inclined her head, the move painfully familiar. I learned from the best. Despite himself, RJ smiled. It didn't take away the pain, but it did relieve the pressure enough for him to breathe. He stepped by her, carefully placing the mask on the table. Without it, it appeared unsettlingly vacant, like a discarded skin that no longer belonged to anyone. You're still you, RJ stated slowly, which means you're still annoying, secretive, and impossible. He returned his gaze to her. But you're also still the person who dragged me out of that fire, who stayed up all night with me when I couldn't sleep, who knows exactly how I take my coffee. Luna's face glowed with pride. I was afraid you'd only see the lie. I do see it, you replied. I just see everything around it. They stood there, the space between them packed with unspoken messages. RJ felt as if he were standing on the border of a new map, with all the familiar features repainted. Dylan's gone, Luna murmured gently. I can't wear him any longer. Not after this. RJ nodded. It's probably for the best. What if it means I'll also disappear? RJ did not respond immediately. He considered the dangers, the foes Luna had hinted to but never named. He considered how much easier it would be to walk away, pretending he had never pulled aside the mask. Then he considered how empty it would feel. Then we figure something else out, the man said. I am done with half-truths. If I'm in this, I'm all in. Luna took a shuddering breath. RJ shrugged. You don't know what you're agreeing to. Wouldn't be the first time. She laughed freely. It filled the room, scaring away some of the ghosts. They sat on the floor with their backs against the wall, the mask between them like a line they couldn't cross again. Luna told him everything she could about Dylan's purpose, the network she was attempting to dismantle from within, and the cost of living as 2 people while not fully belonging to either. RJ listened. He interrupted with inquiries, calm incredulity, and rage that erupted and then burned out swiftly. Luna was unfazed by everything. Hours have passed. The lights stabilized. The dust settled. When Luna eventually fell silent, RJ saw how close they were sitting, knees touching and shoulders squeezed together. It felt natural, as if they had always been supposed to end up here. You know, RJ remarked softly, I fell for both of you. Luna looked at him in surprise. You did. He nodded. Guess I have a type. Her smile was modest but brilliant. I don't deserve you. Probably not, she replied. Good thing I'm terrible at making sensible choices. They made no promises. They did not pretend that everything was suddenly easy. But as RJ picked up the discarded mask and tossed it in the trash, he felt something shift within him. The truth hurt, but it was also freeing. And for the first time, standing by Luna with no illusions between them, RJ was confident that whatever came next, danger, upheaval, uncertainty, they would confront it as themselves.